Motion to agenda, meeting of the Scituate Board of Health, Wednesday, January 17th, 2018, Selectmen Chambers, Town Hall, 6 p.m. Make a motion.
Make a motion to open the meeting and accept the agenda.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, scheduled items. Discuss and vote septic system design hearing, 190 Glades Road, Carbonell Construction consultant representing the homeowner request for installation of septic system requiring variance from section 4.53 of the Town of Scituate private well regulations. So if you want to just come forward, state your name.
Good evening, my name is John Cavanero from Cavanero Consulting in Norwell.
How are you doing?
Good, thanks. And I'm
Your
here.
clients chose not to show up.
Yes, yeah, they were. He just wasn't available at the same time, actually. For no other reason. Quick history on this property on Glades Road. This is beyond the gate out of the Glades. This property was subdivided by the two previous owners, and a septic system was designed and approved back in 2008. That property was then sold to a second owner from the original subdivision. Had a house designed, went to conservation, got it approved. It was appealed, it was overturned. That took a lot of time. As a result, that homeowner ended up selling the property to the abutter. Decided not to live there. Turned out that he just didn't want to live. The house that was approved was actually out here somewhere. So it was sort of in front of this house. So this gentleman decided he'd rather buy the property, and the owner decided to sell. So this was never constructed. The septic system was extended in terms of its permit life through the Permit Extension Act, and then I think we filed at least one extension for the life of the system. So that lasted until June of 2017.
16.
Oh, 16?
June of 16.
Okay,
Yep,
so that's when it
total
expired.
of 8 years.
Okay. And that included the extension?
Mhm.
Okay. So then, it was still not constructed. This homeowner now is looking to move forward with the construction. In the process of updating the septic approval, we realized that your well regulations had been upgraded as of June of this year, which includes, as you know, a setback to an irrigation well of 100 feet to an SAS.
The irrigation well isn't used, they do use it?
And they do use it, yeah. But the house is connected to town water. So, originally we were thinking of just applying to upgrade the septic system, or to renew the septic system approval. But when we saw the well regulations, it was, well, we either he likes to use the irrigation well. It is beyond the Title V requirement. It's certainly less than what you have for requirement. So we thought it'd be best to seek a variance.
But it is a variance on new construction, by the way.
Right.
Gather this.
Yeah.
Okay, so after reading everything today and getting a little bit caught up, this was before my tenure on the Board of Health and before Doug's tenure and Jen's tenure for that matter. I got a couple questions. So, first things first, the same owner owns both pieces of property, is that what I understand?
Yes.
Okay. So, if it's new construction, why can't there be, and I'm not familiar with how much you've prepped and so on and so forth, why can't there be, what size house is it?
4 bedroom.
4 bedrooms, so what's that, 3,000 gallons?
It's 440 gallons per day.
Okay. So I'm just curious as to why, being new construction, why it's being asked of us to to grant a variance when we know what's going to happen. Do you know what I mean? Meaning that, and again, I don't know how the perk test, and I don't know how everything here is all laid out, and how, if it's possible to even shift around where the septic system is going to go, and so on and so
Right.
forth. So we don't have to worry about that extra 60 feet of variance. See, variances are one of those tricky things. So, as you know, new construction, and this is obviously the topography in this whole area of town is different in itself. That, you know, if it's new construction, you know, we feel that it could be, there's got to be some sort of workaround. That being said, you know, if you're asking for a 10-foot variance, because of this being in the part of town that it is, you know, we may entertain that.
Right.
But, you know, asking for a 60% variance, because it would go from 100 feet to 40 feet,
Right.
you know, that's a 60% variance. You know what I mean? So that's
Yeah.
kind of where I'm at.
Sure.
And again, I don't know all the particulars of, you know, like I said, where the pits are perked and if that's the ideal location or not. And maybe you could expound upon that.
I will, yeah.
And then just, you know, why we have to do it for new construction. That's my question.
Right,
That's
sure,
my question,
sure.
to just right off the bat, that,
Valid, yep.
that it, you know, without going this, without you and us having this conversation right now, you know, maybe it could have been headed, you know, down a different path and we wouldn't, you know.
Yeah, so unfortunately, there's really not much we can do as far as what's out there. This well is here.
Right.
It was put in before your regs. This was designed and approved and before your reg went into place. Your reg is fairly strict with respect to Title V. I mean, it's
Correct.
4 times, it's 400% more strict than, so as far as the percentages, yes, we're 60% less, but we're also almost 100% more than what Title V is. But having said that, there really is no other place to site the septic system. The site was perked.
At all.
No, there really isn't. I mean, the ledge outcropping is substantial out here.
Yeah, the topography's
Yeah,
definitely,
we were able to find adequate soil. In fact, both lots, there's a new house across the street. It was very similar
Mhm.
in navigating the ledge around the site.
Mhm.
The well is in place, and the owner wanted to seek this request rather than just concede the well, quite frankly.
If I can just interject
Sure.
and give you a little bit of background on the private well regulations. This board spent 2 years developing those regulations, and in fact made the decision, hence that setback. The decision being that all wells are being treated as possible potable wells in this town. So it had come to our attention through, I believe, 13 meetings that we had in the development of these regulations, that folks in other communities, and in Scituate in fact, were using private wells to fill swimming pools, feed their chickens, do things that don't necessarily fall under the maybe common sense understanding of what potable water is for. But you fill a swimming pool, your children, yourselves, you're going to ingest some water. So the idea behind those wells and the associated setback is to treat wells, all wells, as potable, hence the 100-foot to match potability requirements under Title V. That's the history of the regulations themselves.
So you're saying
if you're
irrigation
unfamiliar.
wells we use to fill pools and
Yes,
things like that?
yes. So this board, after
It's not,
hearing a
it's
lot
not
of...
just that, it's just that, you know, the reason why we did it, obviously is to err on the side of caution, you know, is that we had heard stories, we had some of the well experts, if you will, in here. You know, they had said there were stories where, you know, kids in Pembroke, they were running through the sprinkler that was by irrigation, or just by a welfare irrigation and watering the lawn, and you know, these kids got sick from E. coli and all sorts of nasty stuff. So that's the reason why, you know, instead of having to deal with it 6 months down the road,
Right.
you know what I mean? And
That's what you meant by,
That-
we know where these wells go. You
Yeah.
referring to the use of the irrigation well.
Yes.
I wasn't
And I
sure
don't know if
which
there's gonna be young kids, I don't know, I mean, there's.
No, it doesn't matter.
It's,
Yeah,
it
I
doesn't
understand
matter,
now what
it's
you're
just,
referring
it's just, that's the reason why.
Safe.
And honestly, most people aren't gonna use it to drink out of anything.
to. Right,
I mean, most people aren't gonna.
sure,
do it, so.
but that was the gist.
Right, that was the gist of it.
Okay.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, so if, as you say, is, accurate in that, there's no other logical place to try to park, why can't that well be relocated? So that the well is 100 feet from the leaching field, well,
Right.
100 feet from both the
Yeah.
primary and the reserve.
Yeah, I don't know that we can get actually 100 feet from his septic system on his lot as well,
Mhm.
between this well. 100 feet basically is, I'm not sure that it can, but that'll be, if we can't get this variance, then he'll have to decide whether or not he wants an
Will you just,
irrigation well.
will you just walk me through it one more time now?
Sure.
So, this house has been permitted already, meaning it's gone through?
Yeah,
all
that's
the
an
other
existing
phases?
house.
Oh, it already is an
Oh,
existing.
yeah, it's been there for
I
many
get it.
years.
All right.
And
But he owns both.
That's one
I-
septic.
He owns
He has a
both-
septic.
He owns both houses.
Correct. He owns both, this is a vacant lot, and he owns this.
I get it.
He bought this.
So my thought is, given the fact that this board has, a well-known history of not granting variances for new construction, that leads to my question of what can the owner, given that he owns both properties, or I want to say he, maybe they, own both properties, what can the owner do to alleviate the need for a variance? Hence the question of, relocating or discontinuing use of that irrigation well.
Well, that would probably be the only option, which is why we sought the variance in the first place. If there was another easier way to do it, it would have been pursued.
And you've perked everywhere around that property?
Yes.
Or just, okay.
Yeah, we perked, well,
And you have the perks.
really the perks sort of end
Stop, yeah.
at the, we can't go beyond
Yeah.
the 50-foot buffer zone. This starts to drop off. There's so much, all the ledge isn't shown here. This is basically all a rock face, if you've been out to the glades at all.
Now, is this towards the water, right?
Yeah, this is the ocean.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a coastal bank up in here.
And this is where you're coming in, right?
Correct, this is the
Okay.
road that comes around.
And goes up to
New
the
house right across.
Adams.
Exactly, continues on. So it was somewhat threading a needle out there.
Oh, it always is out there.
Yeah.
Well, that's not inconsistent with much of Scituate.
Right.
Scituate has lots of ledge, Scituate has lots of buffer setbacks. Many new construction projects face very similar conditions in terms of siting both the home and the system itself.
Right.
And her questions was one that I was gonna say, hence the reason that the homeowner's not here, because I would have asked him point blank, why can't we just move the well?
Yeah,
Or
You know what I mean?
discontinue
Or,
use.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and that has to be an
That's his
option
call,
if you
that's his
don't-
call.
Yeah, that's his call.
Yeah.
That's not your problem,
Right.
other than, if, we did explore that as far as citing it, what was feasible elsewhere on his lot. We couldn't get more than 100 feet with
anything.
reasonable. I mean, there's lots of ledge on his front yard as well, retaining walls, and so forth, so.
So, okay,
We could not get 100 feet setback from that well.
right.
We can get 50 feet. We could certainly switch the primary and the reserve to get a little bit more distance here. This may be able to get tweaked a little bit, but we're not going to be anywhere near 100 feet.
Right,
Right.
which just doesn't exist, I think. Well, I know my feelings. I don't know how Dougie's feeling, but if, we are a board of three. If you want, I'll make a motion to continue it for the next meeting or the meeting after. And then we can have Russell, who is totally intimate with the whole property, because he's been on the board longer than both of us here, much more intimate with the property, and have his input. I can't speak for him. I know which way he usually goes, but I cannot speak for him. So we can do that, or you can ask the two of us to go ahead and do our thing. I'm giving that choice to you.
Sure.
Hence the reason if the owner was here, I would give the choice to him. You know what I mean?
I think the important thing at this point, the irrigation well is an accessory.
Oh, yeah,
Quite
it's
frankly.
a money saver, I get it.
Yeah.
It saves some
Well,
money.
and it's, yeah, it's a money saver, it's, takes the drain off the town water service that he's got there.
Of course,
So,
yeah, of course. I
But
get it.
I think the more important thing to move things forward is to get this permit reactivated. So we'd rather move forward, I think, with getting the septic approved.
Is this the current plan right here?
Yes.
No, well, I don't know. The current plan was received by our office at about 3 o'clock today, so
Yeah,
I
based on your-
haven't seen it,
Yeah.
but.
It's the same plan. So
Same plan?
Jen had comments.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do my part and recommend that, you know, if in fact the board votes tonight, I am going to recommend that the board denies the variance request for multiple reasons. The private well regulations were put in place for public health protection, hence the 100-foot required setback. And the board has a very well-known history of not granting variances for new
I
construction.
mean, we didn't even do it for the town with the new building.
Yeah.
We denied them and made them go back and do it.
And they,
Not that-
you know, at a cost to the town, you know, they redesigned the system so that they met all of Title V. This has to meet not only Title V, but the private well regulations, in my view. So I'm.
Does it meet Title V now?
Uh,
Oh, you don't know?
Well, I haven't reviewed the
Right.
revised plan,
Right.
so I can't speak to the current plan. But between Title V and our private
What
well
revision of the
regulations.
plan are you guys on now? Where are you now? Or is that just the first proposed?
So this is revision 1. What was
Yeah.
received today is revision 1. And in your packet is the list of comments that I provided to John's colleague Brendan, who had
Okay.
been intimately working on the
Okay,
design.
okay,
So that's what he's indicating has been addressed by the plan before you.
okay, cool.
So these should be in that, these hopefully
Correct.
should be corrected in there.
Yep, and those were Title V related questions,
Right.
and some were basic, you know, kind of administrative.
Yeah, you wanted to see the floor
things.
plans,
Right.
pump calculations,
Sure,
so we included all that.
sure.
So as far as tonight procedurally goes, would the variance gets, let's just say the variance got denied, would the plan get approved, subject to the variance being denied? We'd have to revise the plan?
She has to look at the new plan.
Well, so if the variance request was denied,
Yeah,
you and the owners would have to make a decision as to how you would want to proceed, because the plan obviously couldn't be approved as provided, since it doesn't meet the regulations, and the
Okay.
variance would be denied.
Yeah.
So you and the owners would have to make a decision as to what path you want to put forward,
Yeah.
and then you would provide a revised plan, whether.
With capping the well.
Well, that would be one option. So the options, at least in my mind, would be moving the well if feasible. I know you've indicated you've already
Right.
determined that that's probably infeasible. Would include abandoning the well. So if you would abandon the well, or I shouldn't say you, if the homeowners would decide to abandon the well, then the plan could be submitted minus the well with the permitted completed activity of well abandonment per our regulations. The plan could be resubmitted as a revision, you know, documenting that the well is removed, and if things haven't changed based on my initial review, it would be an administrative review, no variance needed,
okay, so.
and it would just come in as a revised plan.
Gotcha.
If, let's say,
So why don't we?
So that's best case scenario, getting it done quicker and fastest.
Right. So I could still request a continuance, so I can at least consult you and make sure that there's no way to relocate. But even if it doesn't matter. The way I see this, I can explain to him where this is going to go, just so he's aware of that.
Sure.
And then he can decide if he wants to relocate it, but the bottom line is that'll have to get decommissioned, is what I say. And then we can get an administrative approval for the septic, pending that decommissioning. And then if we want to put an irrigation well in, we can file a well permit to put an irrigation well in, if we can find a place that's more than 100 feet and all the others.
Right.
And that,
Mhm.
I wouldn't be seeking any variances, or if we got it to 90 feet, and then we decide whether or not we wanted to proceed with the variance for that.
Sure, might be in a different mood that day, you never know. 90 feet's better than 40 feet.
I
Right.
understand,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
no, I get it. So, but that's
So-
just so I can explain it to him.
And since it's been a while since you've been
Yes.
before the board, the way the board requests reviews to occur is I review administratively. If there are more than 3 local upgrade requests and/or a variance requested, the board reviews it
Right.
following my administrative review. If there are less than 3 local upgrades, which is typically more applicable for a repair,
Yeah,
or a variance, or no variance, then it's just administrative review. So it would come to the office and get reviewed.
okay.
By
So this
us.
is new construction, so we're not seeking any.
Right, so,
It was just a well.
right, so
Yep.
it would just be administrative at that point.
Okay. All right, so why don't we do this? Why don't we request a continuance?
Okay.
And then, in the meantime, I'll work with you, Brendan. We can decide.
Okay,
That's fine. That's fine.
yeah, that works. Make a,
Would you want to come back as soon as the next meeting, which would be Monday, the 29th, or the meeting after that?
February 12th.
Let's do the meeting after that.
So February
So it's the first meeting in February would be the continuance.
okay, so I'll make a motion to continue the septic system design hearing on 190 Glades Road to February 12th, when Carbonaro Consulting can consult with the client and move forward from there.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
So, last thing I didn't ask, if we decide not to go forward, can we withdraw? Yeah.
And
Wait.
I can send you a copy of this, just so that you have the dates.
Okay.
It's the permit extension requested.
Oh, okay.
Actually, you can take that, I can take another one, that
Oh,
way you
okay.
have it for your record.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
guys.
Appreciate it, thank you, have a good
Have
night.
a good
Have a
night,
good
nice to
night.
see you.
Okay, discuss and vote non-compliance of failure septic system, McDonough 41 Utility Road. And we're gonna,
Yep, so the McDonough's called our office this afternoon, requested a continuance until the next meeting, so Monday, January 29th, they'll be on the agenda.
they know to be here, right?
Yes, I spoke to both of them today.
Okay. All right, new business, director's report.
So I have just a short update on
We're
the
not gonna be able to approve the minutes, are we?
going on, that's
We'll be able
correct,
to approve the minutes because Russell's not here.
correct, right. So just a quick update on some of the things going on. We still have one food permit outstanding. I will stop mentioning this until that establishment reopens for the year, but everybody else is permitted except one. Housing, we have 9 open cases which are unchanged. We have 2 nuisance cases which are unchanged. For septic, we have 1 outstanding operation and maintenance repair, which I am following up on to make sure that it actually occurs. We have 4 outstanding operations and maintenance contracts. We have 15 failures or conditional pass. We have 1 less from the last time, and that address was connected to town sewer. So that's good. And then we also have 1 that was in failure that is to the point of review of the as-built and almost issuing the certificate of compliance. So we're almost down to. I'm currently at this stage of reviewing septic plans received on January 3rd or later. So we're trying to catch up as best as we can on that while doing everything else. Food, if I'm not mistaken, Joan, am I right, we're up to 10 applicants for the Winters Farmers Market, which begins a week from this Saturday at St. Luke's, just across from us. So we're working on permit reviews for that. And
So that's going to
getting
be
ready-
on Saturdays?
Be on Saturdays through, I think, the first week in April. I don't think it's every Saturday, but it begins the last Saturday in January. We still have 2 to 3 flu shots available, so any holdouts that are thinking about it, we have
Call
them.
Russ.
Huh?
Call Russ.
No, we have them, we do have them available, so it's never too late to get protection during this very dangerous flu season. A little bit of update, this office has been really busy in terms of the emergency preparedness, sheltering, and recovery. As you all know, we had a storm with some pretty significant, although short-term, but significant flooding on Thursday, the 4th. We opened the shelter that day, and we were open for a little over 24 hours. We temporarily housed 19 people, 2 dogs, and a bird. So it seems as though every shelter we have a bird. Our last bird was Sunshine. This bird was Rick. So they were all fantastic. We were able to provide them everything that we could, while they stayed with us. And thankfully, everybody was able to get back into their houses safely on Friday. Since that time, we've been conducting food inspections as a result of flooding for those folks who couldn't reopen right away. We did inspections to make sure that food was properly handled or discarded as necessary based on power outages and flooding, and worked with establishments to get them reopened. We're currently in the process of doing post-storm septic inspections, as we always do for large flooding events. So that is ongoing. So even though the storm is past, we still have storm-related activities that we are undertaking. That's what I have for you.
Okay.
Yes.
Other business. Administrative invoices, approvals. And then the meeting minutes will have to move to the next meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.